you doing?
Everything's good.
Yeah.
Everything is definitely good. Yeah.
What's like Friday like for you guys? Is it busy or is it kind of?
It's casual Friday. We wear the casual clothes on Fridays, but usually it's pretty quiet because most people want to come in on Saturdays.
Oh, I see. Everyone's golfing here on Fridays too in this city, so no one's working.
That's true too.
Just you and me. Nobody's working today. You are actually the live chat interview number 5. So you're lucky.
Nice.
5.
Sweet. That's nice.
I love doing these. They're fun. They take a lot of time to edit afterwards. So that's why they only have 5.
What made you want to do this? I'm going to ask you a question first.
Okay.
What made you even want to do this?
I just feel like there's, so let me back it up a tiny bit. Like this whole mentorship platform, I've been wanting to do this for years. And I just kind of, I'm like, oh, you start something and then you sort of stop. And then business gets really, really busy and it just takes a back seat. And then another year goes by. And then when COVID happened, I was like, well, shit, we're all going to be out of jobs and no one's going to be building or renovating at all. So let's like amp it up. So I started it again. And literally within 3 months, I think of like 2020. So by summertime, we were so busy with design work and projects that I just like has to take a back seat again. And it wasn't until summer of last year where you get through the whole 2.5 years of the whole COVID boom in the building industry out here. And I was just so burnt out. And I'm approaching 20 years in my business in September, actually. So that's like 5 days from now? Not even.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm like, what's my 2.0? What am I I'm not doing physical design work forever. Like I love it, but I'm not in love with it like I used to be when I first started. And I've had other designers approach me like for years asking questions. And I'm always like, why would you ask? Like, why are you asking me? I'm figuring this out too. But now that I'm this far into it, I'm like, there is so much opportunity to share what I've learned and share the relationships that I've developed with, all my suppliers and all my trades and just other people in the industry. So what's a better way to do that than to do interviews like this and then put it out on YouTube? Right?
You're exactly right. Yes.
Do we know what we're doing? No, but that's okay. We are figuring it out as we go.
So far, I think you're doing a good job.
Motto of life, right? You just you don't know, you just do it. You figure it out.
That's 100%. Yeah. There's no real textbook to anything. So it's just like you just kind of go with it and then you just figure it out along the way.
That's right. So I think that's sort of the long version of why we do. It's not really I don't even know what to call this. It's not a podcast. It's like a video cast. I don't know, but
video cast. Yeah. Chat cast.
So I was thank you, by the way, Justin Kandola, the owner of DK Modern Furniture here in Kelowna. That's my official intro for you. I will link Justin's social handles and the DK Modern website. We'll put it all at the bottom of our, what do we call it? The show notes. That sounds so official.
Yes.
Yes. But we will link.
It is. You are official now.
I guess so. I will link how you guys can connect with Justin and where you can see DK Modern online and you can learn more about the store and everything else at the end of this. But Justin, I met you, I don't know, was it like 4 or 5 years ago? More than that?
4 or 5 years ago. So it was actually, you remember when you were at Kelowna Women in Business?
Yes.
Yeah, so I sponsored one of the events, one of the main events. I think it was your wrap-up event. I'm not really 100% sure which one it was, but then obviously I can't go because it's a women thing. So I sent Danielle, one of my staff, over there, and then she did a whole speech, all this and that. And then you guys met each other. You came into the store, we met each other, and then from there we have ended up here doing chats together.
On live chat. That's right. Honestly, that's hilarious. I completely forgot about that. I was thinking I just went in one day and that's how we developed this relationship. But no, we hit you up for free merch and free stuff.
You did. And
you obliged, which was really nice. But you were willing to completely give us whatever we needed and became a major sponsor. Thank you for reminding me. That's really good.
Well, it was it's the reality of especially my store, because as you know, it's a little bit more designer oriented.
Right.
So it's 90% of my clientele is female. And then all the designers I deal with are also female. So females in my sector are way more important than men, to be honest with you.
Do you want to give us a quick little walking tour of just that main area to show us some of the brands that you have there?
You want me to just do it right now?
Yeah, go ahead. Just if you want to just kind of give us an impromptu showroom tour.
Let me show you the chair that I'm actually sitting on first.
Ooh, fancy.
Two-tone, look at that. So this is what DK looks like. this is one side of the store.
Mm-hmm. This is great. I think it just shows people really, really quickly, like the style, the layout. I love that it's not cluttered. You know, when you walk into your showroom, everything is just you, it's like, you can kind of exhale. There's room to move around. There's not one of everything, messing up the whole
No.
floor. It's very thoughtfully
Contemporary,
planned out.
the modern way is supposed to be less is more. So we had to
Yeah.
make our showroom like this. So
Yeah.
we really wanted to focus on not being like the warehouse type of, we wanted to be like a
Mhm.
gallery type of store rather than a warehouse type of store where you don't even know where to look because everywhere you look, there's just something around. So it
Yeah.
just gets all cluttered and confusing. So
Yeah.
we're the exact opposite of that. Which
Can
has
you
been weird because like coming from when my dad comes in the store, so vice president of city furniture, he always gets all stressed because he sees nothing but floor all over the place, and
He's
he's
like,
like,
you need
why
more.
why don't you have a coffee table there, why don't you put something here? And I'm like, this is not city
You're like,
furniture,
get
dad, this
out.
is a different way.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
you're retired for a reason, so keep it that way. Go on the
But
golf course, worry about your swing.
they never truly retire. It's always going to be there. So, and they'll always, as a parent,
No,
have an
no,
opinion about what you could do better, right?
I honestly think that he loves it when, like, say, if I have to go somewhere like for a weekend or whatever, and then he comes in to kind of help out and just make sure. I
Yeah.
think deep down he
He
truly
loves
loves it
it,
because then
I'm
he
sure.
gets to like talk to clients and he doesn't even know anything about this stuff. Like, yeah, I've even been around and he talks to clients, and I was like, I don't even know how he's talking about this sectional because he literally has
He doesn't
no
know.
information on the sectional at
But
all.
does he sell? Can he
He
sell?
does.
That's
Oh yeah, he does.
amazing.
They're professionals. He's the best of the best. Yeah.
That's
He will talk
hilarious.
you off to the point that you're just like, I don't even know what I'm buying, but I'm just gonna buy it because
I'm just
this
going to
guy
buy it
just
so I
sold it
can
to me.
leave.
Yeah, yeah. Part of me actually does believe that too. I had to tell him like, we're a little bit more relaxed here, Dad. You don't need to follow them around. You just like let them browse around. If they have some questions, it's okay, but you
That's
don't need to do
cute.
that.
You're the owner of DK Modern Furniture, but you're
I know.
not new to this industry whatsoever. You have a long legacy basically in the business through your family. So tell me a little bit about your connection. How did you get into furniture and where did it all
So
start?
like you hear a lot of the time people say like I grew up in a certain field or that kind of a thing. But in my situation, I grew up in a little town called Revelstoke. Shout out to
Mhm.
Revelstoke. And at the time, my dad, he had a furniture store there called City Furniture, and our house was above the store. So above the store, downstairs would have been the retail. Upstairs was half warehouse and half our house.
Wow.
So, like me and my sister, we literally grew up around furniture every day of our lives. Like we would come home from school, we would go through the store up to our house. So it was like we would play in the store, we would hide underneath beds, behind fridges, that kind of thing. So I literally grew up around furniture for my whole life. So
Mm.
it was kind of one of those things where I didn't really know if I was going to be in furniture once I grew up. It just kind of naturally progressed to, you know what, this is kind of what I know, even though if I didn't really mean to know what it was. It's just like I just grew up in it. So
Yeah.
that's where it started.
Did you get the pressure from your family, from your dad early on that like, dear son, when you grow up one day and you take this over, or no, is he just sort of like, whatever you want to do?
It started to be like a whatever you wanted to do.
Mhm.
I mean, he did make me build things all the time. Like after school, all the kids would be like, oh, let's go out and play sports and go have fun. And he'd be like, no, you have to come and you have to go build this coffee table first and then you can go play. So I think it was a weird thing because I hated it so much because I
Mhm.
was like, all I wanted to do was obviously go play with my friends rather than go build things. So
Yeah.
at that time, it was so obvious that I was like, I don't want any part of this as I grow up. And then he never pressured me into it anyways at that time because I think he knew that I resented him for the fact that he made me build things when I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So then as life happened is as we got older and then the things that I really wanted to do just didn't really seem to be going in the way that I wanted. So then he said like, hey, this is an opportunity for you. Like
Mhm.
you should join the family business, do this and that. So it got a little bit more real as I got older. And once I graduated from school, that kind of thing, it definitely became more and more real. But they wanted me to be a part of City Furniture. So that's the
Ah.
actual family business. So he
Mhm.
wanted me to, once he steps down, to take over for his spot, which is he was the vice president of City Furniture. So
So tell
that
me, City Furniture, for those of like the people that are watching that don't know or they're not located in BC, like City Furniture is a massive chain of furniture stores throughout the BC and the interior. How
Western
many
Canada. It's actually
Western
turned
Canada?
into the biggest Western Canada furniture retailer in Canada.
Wow.
And
And
all of the West,
how many stores are
26.
there? 26.
26 stores. Yeah.
When did this all start?
Oof. This would have started about 35 years ago now. 35 years ago,
Wow.
and it started up in Terrace, BC, way
Mhm.
up north, way up north, and
Mhm.
then they've obviously migrated down to this side of the world, and now they've
Mhm.
gone even more west. Alberta and Saskatchewan are next, so
Wow.
they've already expanded to 5, 6 stores in Alberta, and now they're looking at Saskatchewan. So,
And like
yeah, so that's the families.
the really cool part about the CF story is that it's all family, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like all
All
the
family.
owners, it's all family.
Yeah.
There's no outside, no one's infiltrated the family dynasty.
No one
No,
has. So far, it's been about 90% has all been family, and the other 10% has been just internally
that's
employees that
amazing.
have turned into owners. Yeah.
That's
So it's been good.
amazing. So how come you don't have a CF store? What's the story behind
The story
what's going
behind
on?
this one, I don't even think we have enough time for this one, but
Okay.
the story is that, so
If you want to talk about it, if not, because I
I'll
can
talk
edit
about it. I have
this,
an
we
open
can
book.
shop, I can do whatever I want. That's why it's pre-recorded. So I
Rest.
can imagine
So
working with family, right? And like being under a family dynamic is a very complicated dynamic. And it adds like additional layers to that pie, right?
it does for
Yeah.
sure. So there's a lot of different things. The main thing was like I grew up in Revelstoke, then I moved to Kelowna, and the idea at the time was we'll open up a store here in Kelowna, which would have been great because I love Kelowna and I've always wanted to stay in Kelowna. But then the now president of City Furniture, he opened up a store in West Kelowna, so that's become the flagship store within the City Furniture chain.
Mhm.
And because he's the president and it's his store in West Kelowna, there was no opportunity for me to have a store here. I would have had to move to, like, at that time the store that we were opening up was Castlegar.
Mm.
So it would have been like I'd have to move to Castlegar. That would have been my essentially that's would have been my life. So I
Yeah.
didn't want that. Like I wanted to stay in Kelowna. I've been a little bit more similar to my dad. My dad's more of like we'll work, we'll have fun, but like he wants to golf on a Thursday like I do. He wants to go on soccer tournaments on the weekend kind of thing. Like
Mm.
he's not totally tied to it. He wants to like enjoy other things about life, and I've always been that same way too.
Yeah.
So for me it was like I want to live in Kelowna. That's as simple as it was. I just didn't want to move anywhere else. And then the other thing to it too is I just don't like taking I don't like being told what to do.
I agree.
That
And
might
that's
be a
why
little bit
all
more
of
of
us
it
are in
than the
business for
actual
our,
location part.
yeah, all of us that are in
Yeah,
business for ourselves, we totally understand that. Like we can play well on other teams, but when it comes down to it, it's like we're the boss of the team. So
we are. And
there
it's
you
a
go.
different one when it's not like it's just somebody that's just your boss is telling you. It's always going to be your uncle or your
Yeah,
dad. And it's just a
different.
different, it's just different. Yeah. So they just treat you in a different way because we're all family. So, yeah, I just didn't like it. We had a little sit down and I told them I just want to do my own thing. So it
Mm.
didn't go down very well. I'll tell you that. It was a very awkward and weird conversation to have.
Yeah.
But it was something that I need to do. And now looking back on it, I mean, it's been 12 plus years since that happened, and I don't regret it for one bit.
That's
People at the
awesome.
time thought I was crazy for
I
sure.
bet. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
they all
bet.
was like, you have such a good system. Like the store at that time, like it was already running. It was a well-oiled machine. Like really, no
Mhm.
matter what store you opened, if you the only way it would fail is if you really messed it up.
Yeah.
There's no other way that you would
Yeah.
fail it. I would rather do it my own way. Maybe might not be as successful as City Furniture, but at least I did it my way. So
That's
um,
amazing. That's
that's
hard
what it
and would
was
be
for me.
hard to do, right? When you have like, I don't want to call it like, handed to you on a silver spoon, but literally when
It
you
did.
don't have to go through that struggle of startup because that's already been done. Yeah.
It was a weird one, yeah, but I'm very similar to my dad. So even though he was hurt because he obviously wanted me to be a part of City Furniture,
Mhm.
he understood it because he's the same way too. I want to be more like you. I just want to like
Mhm.
go enjoy. I'll obviously work hard, all that good stuff, but I
Yeah.
want to enjoy my life. I don't
That's
want to like look back
amazing.
on my life and everything just be revolving around work.
Right,
That's
right.
just the end of it. So
That
that's why
takes
I
a
didn't
lot
do it.
of guts. That takes a lot of integrity too, right? To be able to stand up to not just like one person in the family, but the family
The
and
family,
just
yeah.
tell them what you want and how you want to, what you want out of life because life's so short. Um,
Yeah. 100%.
And tell me about like what are the some of the brands that you guys carry and the style of the furniture and how is it different from what you grew up with?
Thing with City Furniture is I didn't like the furniture at all. Like I was
Oh,
selling, like I just don't. It's
okay.
just the truth.
Not
It's
your
all like
style.
big, puffy, really traditional. Like a sofa will come in brown, black,
Mhm.
or white. It's just like it just doesn't excite me. It's like I'm not gonna get excited to sell that sofa to somebody. So that was part of the reason why you could tell that Kelowna was always gonna trend towards contemporary because it's such a it's such a
Hmm.
contemporary city. So it
Hmm.
was gonna, and at that time there was no contemporary furniture stores out here. So I was like, a better idea would be to like, let's create a contemporary furniture store out here that will provide a little bit different type of look, completely
Hmm.
different from everything else. So we deal with brands. Our main brand is EQ3, which is out of Winnipeg. And then we have some other ones out on the East Coast, like Sunpan, which is really popular too. Nuvo is really popular. And then we have a couple from overseas, like Caligaris, which is in Italy. But it's all basically European styled modern furniture is what it is. It's simple, low, sleek, and you can customize it the way that you want to. So it's not just like brown or black. It's just like, you know what? You pick whatever color,
Lots
you
of
configure it
options.
however you want.
Yeah.
You create it. Everybody's got their own taste. Everybody's got their own style. So it's fun
Yeah.
to see how it comes to life,
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
would know. Yeah.
That's so true. You mentioned EQ3 out of Winnipeg, and it
Yes.
just sparked my thing. I was like, funny fact is that straight out of high school, I went and worked in the corporate R&D department for Palliser Furniture, which is like the staple
They own it.
brand where EQ3 was basically developed. So yeah, so for my
Yes.
first year out of high
100%.
school,
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be a furniture designer and I wanted to get into furniture design. And I ended up somehow, there's a story, I won't get into it today, but I ended up going and working for 1 year at their corporate R&D department in Winnipeg, Manitoba,
Wow.
Palliser Furniture.
Crazy.
And after
Crazy
a
how the
year,
world works.
I know.
Yeah.
And then after a year, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be a furniture designer. So I left and
I'll
I
just be
went
an
to
interior
design school.
designer instead.
And so Palliser and then EQ3 at the time was all their plants were in Winnipeg. And then I believe they had a plant in
Mexico.
Mexico. Yeah. And then now I
Mexico,
think
yeah.
there's other plants as well. So, but it's literally one of the only Canadian manufacturers, like
Fully
for
Canadian.
big
Yeah, fully
upholstery. Yeah.
Canadian. There's a lot of Canadian brands, but just because you're a brand doesn't mean that you're actually getting manufactured in Canada. So this is
Yeah.
the number one. This is a common confusion is that a lot of people hear like, oh, it's a Canadian company, so they just naturally assume that means it's fully
Right.
Canadian, but it's
It's
not. A
not.
lot of it, the stuff that they're doing is import, like they're bringing it in from wherever in the world. But
Yeah.
EQ3, Palliser, everything is made in Winnipeg, so it's all Canadian. So
Hmm.
people love it. Obviously
Hmm.
everybody in post COVID now, everything is trending towards more and more people want to support local for sure.
Right.
So brands like EQ3 and Palliser are thriving because of that. So
Mhm.
some good does come out of bad things. So
You mentioned that dreaded C word. Tell me a
yes,
little
I
bit
know.
about, like I said, like when COVID hit, we all thought in our industry, like we're done for, we might as well, like figure out what we're going to do with our lives because we're done. No one's going to be building or renovating or buying furniture. And that we all
Uh,
found out, pretty shortly after the pandemic kind of started, that was not the case. Everything just went
no.
bonkers and completely took
Yeah.
off. And we all know how crazy the supply chain was.
Mm-hmm.
What was
It
that
was.
like for you? I mean, for us as designers, trying to find things, source things that was available, and like most stuff was not available, and it just
Right.
delayed everything. But as the person
For
who
sure.
has the bricks and mortar store, who's paying the rent and
Mm-hmm.
has all these obligations and liabilities, and is also trying to work with suppliers and get things, like what was that actually like for you?
It was stressful for sure. Yeah, it was definitely stressful. That's the only way I can really say it because there was really nothing that anybody could do. So it's just, you just got to kind of ride the wave and just hope for the best out of it. Containers tripled in price. So I won't tell you what the prices are, but they literally tripled in price. So
Well,
it was
didn't
harder to
they? You
obviously.
can either just like nod or not, or I don't know, but weren't they sort of like around 5,000 and they went to like 20,000 and above? And like, is that
That's,
roughly, that's what we sort of
yes.
heard and what I
Yeah,
understood. Yeah.
that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of stuff would even come and like, for example, like it would arrive in Vancouver and it would sit in Vancouver port for a month and a half. And
Yeah.
it would just sit there because they don't have enough employees and everything would just get backed up, backed up, backed up. So then we had avoided basically anything that involved water. You just wanted to avoid the water situation.
Yeah.
So keep it on the ground and it'll be a little bit easier. Even then, it was a little bit delayed, but it's not a 3 to 6 month delay. It's like, you know what, it might be a couple weeks. So nobody really knew what it was going to be like. So it was a little bit of a shock at the start of it to tell
Mhm.
people like things are taking years, like a year potentially. Like we don't even know. Even when we tell you a year, we hope it's going to be a year,
Yeah.
but it could be longer. As time passed, more and more consumers just became aware of that this is just the reality of life, because it wasn't just like in my sector, it was every sector.
Everybody.
Like everything was taking time, like even buying a new truck, they ran out of chips, and it was like I went and bought a new truck and it took me a year and a half to get it. So everybody
Mhm.
started to realize like this is just the reality of the new world for the time being. So people started to become okay with it, like they just started to plan a little bit ahead of time. So people started to adjust a little bit, but on our end, it was the only way that we could adjust was to look for more local brands. That was really the only way, just to kind of shorten the timeline. Otherwise, things were just taking way too long with those containers. Way,
Yeah.
way too long.
At what point did
Yeah.
you sort of recognize and feel that things were shifting a little bit and like that long delay, like lead times were shortening a little bit? And how long did that take for it to sort of make a difference or for you to feel a difference?
A year and a half.
Really?
Yeah, it took a long time for sure. Because like even though things technically were good, like manufacturing and everything was back to schedule and employees were back, so like everybody was running at full like they were pre-COVID.
Mhm.
They were still so backed up from that log of
Yeah.
6 months to a year, that it took time for them to actually get back to being caught up. Like it just took so long for them to get it. It took about a year and a half, yeah, before things started to trend that way. But again, it became easier and easier because people just realized that it's just what it is, that there's just nothing that can be done about it.
A year and a half in, and now we're three, just over the 3 year mark, essentially.
Crazy that
How
it's
have,
actually been 3 years.
yeah, for
Oof.
you, like in the industry, what's changed permanently, do you think? That's just new way of doing business that you didn't have to deal with before all of this?
I think the biggest thing is back to, especially around here, is a lot of people would rather deal with local,
Mm-hmm.
just local in general. All of it is just they would rather, the whole like made in Canada Canadian company story just has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we've even seen it with clients. They come in and they're like, I'm looking for Canadian brands. Like Canadian brands, I want things made in Canada. I don't want to deal with anything that's overseas. I just want like local things. So more and more it has become that way. And even my store now, like I only have, before pre-COVID, I had maybe 4 or 5 brands that were from overseas. Now I only deal with two.
Mm.
And the rest is like I've picked up more Canadian companies, and the Canadian companies are doing fantastic.
We had way too many clients at home who were on their laptops at night looking at, like, I don't want to say the names because this is your moment. We're only talking about
Yeah, yeah.
DK.
It's okay.
But
I,
going
I
on,
do realize that people are shopping elsewhere
no,
outside of
but
DK
going on to
products,
like
so I
big
get it.
names where they should not be shopping online and just like, oh, we found this and we looked at this. And like normally our clients would never be looking, in their spare time
Yeah.
at this stuff. But because everyone was home, now everyone's, playing like at home designer. So
Yeah, I know. It
it
must
made
have
it
been interesting for
interesting.
you guys too. It must have been interesting for you guys too, because like, yeah, it must be a little bit, I don't want to say annoying, but it must be
Oh,
annoying
for
when you
sure.
have
No,
a plan and then they look
1000%.
and they're like, maybe I want to just change that with this one. And you're like, that doesn't even remotely go with everything that we
Yes,
discussed.
that's exactly what's happened. You have, people who are normally really, really busy with corporate or with, travel, even like lots of our clients travel. And when all that got shut
Yeah.
down, they're at home, they're traumatized, they're bored.
Sure,
And so all
crazy.
they have to
Yeah.
focus on now is like their renovation or their build. And that's all their time is going to that. So yeah, it's been interesting sort of doing double shifts on trying to
Yeah.
manage people and their, online time. It's like, you're like,
I
guys, like,
know.
stop. This is not helpful.
Being like we're both in the home sector, which actually thrived with COVID because people spent so much time in their house that they never
Hmm.
really would spend on a normal
Hmm.
situation. So all that vacation money that they typically would use, they're
Yes.
like, you know what? I can't even use this for who knows how long. So maybe I'll use it towards my house.
For sure.
Since now I'm spending more time in my house than I ever have,
Yeah.
maybe I should just be prepared to make it actually nice and cozy and change some
Yeah.
things around. So it actually weirdly worked, like you said, like after once COVID stopped, it was just booming for
Hmm.
everybody that I know in the home sector was just saying
Mhm.
it was just crazy,
Oh, it's so
just
true.
crazy, crazy.
Just kind of keeping on the whole COVID thing and then the supply thing. So my backstory, like I had a spot in Manitoba when I was 26, a furniture place. I kept my accounts when I closed that location. And so I've been in sort of supplying furniture through my interior design business for years. And I know a lot of
Yeah,
designers are so scared to try or to get into it before COVID, and
yeah,
that comes up in sort of like my mentor chats with people and like mentoring of the designers is like bringing in and incorporating furnishings because there's a huge piece of the profit pie that you are leaving on the table if you don't. And if you just send your clients out to buy everything themselves or supply it, it's just anyhow. I lost my train of thought. It's coming back. It's coming back. Okay. Okay.
supply chain.
Yeah, the supply and demand. And what I found too, like in the past, this is before we met, it was easier for me to do wholesale, like with all of these brands that I've known about for the
Sure.
last 20 years, have direct accounts, supply direct. Being
Yeah,
in Canada, a lot of these brands are either US based or they're Canadian, like you said, Canadian company, but they bring everything in. And they're importing. And so pre-COVID, like prices weren't too bad. But then you throw COVID into the mix and the cost to bring everything and import it in, as we all know, just completely skyrocketed. And so,
huge.
as a designer that does do supply of furnishings for my projects, little by little, I just determined and saw how expensive this was becoming. Like my
Yeah,
costs and what I could get things for were now on par with what, a bricks and mortar could sell for retail and even higher. And by the time I
yeah,
bring in like brokerage, I bring in all the freight charges, especially if it's coming from the States. And then you've got that US Canadian dollar conversion.
yes, I know.
It just about two years ago, right? So after 1 year, sort of into COVID, and we just kept seeing costs go up and up. And it seemed like every week or 2 weeks we'd get a notice. It's like, oh, 5% increase, 10% increase
Yeah,
on the water tax or what, I don't know. It was all so much, right? And I have
yeah,
clients because they are at home and they are savvy. And like a lot of our clients, it's just like everybody, they want the best deal. They want the best value for
always.
their dollar. And I don't blame
Yeah,
them. But now that
sure.
they're at home and they have all this time, they're researching what things cost or where they can buy it, or if they can go down to Seattle and pick it up
Yeah,
and bring it back. Eventually, I just decided for my business, I didn't really want to do wholesale anymore, which is crazy because that's all I'd ever done. And this is
yeah,
where I have a point for this.
yeah, yeah,
Our relationship and like working with DK, I will say over the last 2 years, I've given a huge percentage of our business for furnishings to Justin and to DK because I just
yeah,
can't compete with pricing. Number one, I don't want the headache of, ordering and shipping and logistics and then, tracking and managing everything. My receiving costs and my inspection fees just went through the roof. And it was becoming just not profitable for me to supply my own furniture through wholesale accounts. And I'm
yeah,
like, you know what? There's like a few designers that do coaching or business, advice in the States that you listen to, and they're all like, oh, trade only and wholesale only. That works really well if you live in the US, where there are so many more plants and manufacturing. And then the
100%.
designers down there are able to get everything for a lot less than what we can get for up here. So I feel like that model works really
Yeah,
well for US based designers. But here in Canada, it has become much more difficult and complex to do wholesale trade only. But I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do like
yeah,
design retail. I'm going to work with my local suppliers and my showrooms here. And we have our trade discount that you're very generous about supplying to the designers that you work with here. And I don't have the hassle of tracking things. I don't have to receive it. I don't have to inspect it. You guys do all of that. So this was what I was getting to, is that
thank you.
the benefit of working with you over the last 2 years has been incredible because it just removes all those layers of complexity and stress that I would have had to deal with on my own had I been just dealing with like wholesale and to the trade only. So tell me a bit about how that works for you guys. What's it like for you when you have a designer that comes and has like a furnishings project versus just the average consumer that walks in the door?
Honestly, it's fantastic. Well, I love it. Yeah, it's the big difference is that I essentially don't have to do anything when I deal with designers.
Yeah.
It's like the logistics, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That's just what we do on a regular basis anyway. So it doesn't even seem like it's anything new.
Mhm.
So when, like, let's say if you come in with your client, you essentially do all the work and you just tell me like, this is what you've planned. This is it. So I'm like, okay, great. I'll get it here. I'll make sure that it's here. We'll make sure that it's set up for your client. We'll make sure that they're happy,
Mhm.
and we just go to the next one. So it's really it's honestly so easy for us that
Mhm.
working with designers has been one of the best decisions that we made to make sure that we give designers a good discount so then they want to come join us, and we try to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for you so then you don't have to worry about anything.
For my business, it's been such a like a stress relief. And I know I say this a lot, but I'm just so grateful that our paths crossed, and that it's a place where
I
I can
know.
come and bring my clients, and we can source all of our furniture from. And you've just made it so simple and so easy to do business with you, which I really, really appreciate.
Like, as when you were talking about like how it's different for Americans versus Canadians, the
Mhm.
biggest thing is the shipping out here is way different than in the States, because we just have so much land, and where there's just so much, like, between cities there's just nothing but land, so the costs are just crazy.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between Canada and America in that regard. The shipping is the biggest one for sure.
But the
Yeah.
crazy part is like all of the design mentors or the people, who sort of talk about the industry and the design business, it's still very much like you want to do wholesale only, trade only. And I talk to so many Canadian designers, and they're like, I'm really
Yeah.
struggling with this because I just like pricing and shipping, and I can't calculate freight properly, and I eat my shirt
I
on
know.
things. And I'm just like, stop doing that. It's not the same in Canada that it is, down in the US. And I don't think it's ever going to go back to that, but just the way COVID has changed everything and the way that we can get supply and demand and product. And
It's
so I
way too
really,
expensive. And
really,
we have too many, like, there's with Canada too, we have too many what's considered rural cities. So unless you're like a Kelowna or a Kamloops or a Vancouver or Victoria, like major centers, a
mhm,
lot of them they don't go to like the smaller cities. They just don't. In the
mhm,
States, it's like it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a Los Angeles. You can be any city in California. They'll go there and it's just going to be like it's a proper price.
mhm,
Here, it's just like if we're going to, let's say, Castlegar, it's
mhm,
like three times as more money just to get
mhm.
it there, because there's no freight couriers that are going out there.
Yeah,
Might only be
exactly.
one.
What about so I have designers in our Facebook group and that follow on Instagram, like they're not in Kelowna, they're maybe not even in BC. Like, are you able to supply furniture for them if they don't live in the city here and if they live sort of outside of province? Or like how far can you are you willing to ship outside of the city? And then B, how far can you go if they're looking for a supplier like you? How would that work?
We did projects out in Nova Scotia, which was the farthest one that we've ever done,
Hmm.
which I'm sure that your audience knows Nova Scotia is way out in the east.
Yeah.
So basically at the opposite end of the country.
The country,
So
yeah.
that's as far as we did go. But now, price, like you said, like prices are just way too crazy. Shipping prices are through the roof. So we've shortened it out to Alberta is the farthest that we've gone recently, because it's just too expensive. So I'm just honest with the designers and clients
Mhm.
that we have spoken to be like, you're better off just dealing locally. Like, find somebody in your area, because it's just going to be way more
Yeah.
beneficial for you guys, because the costs are just so crazy. So we've done projects up in Edmonton and Fort Mac, which is northern Alberta,
Mhm.
and Calgary. So we'll still go to Alberta. Alberta
Mhm.
is probably the farthest we can go. We would try Saskatchewan. We'd have to obviously see what the costs are associated with it, but
Mhm.
Alberta would probably be the
Right about
farthest that we could
there.
go.
Vancouver, do you go to the islands? Like how far west would you go?
All of BC is we will go anywhere in BC.
Okay.
BC is no problem.
So any designer that's watching or listening, if you are wanting to get into supplying furnishings for your projects and you're looking for an amazing, awesome, honest, and just like easygoing person to do that for you,
Very
Justin
easy
and
going.
DK
Yeah.
Modern is more than willing to supply your furnishings for your projects for you. So do you receive it then to your warehouse in Kelowna, inspect it, and then ship it out from that point? Or do you ship it directly to another warehouse in a different city? Like, how would that work?
It just depends where it's going to. So sometimes we will go directly, like, from, let's just say if they're ordering from the supplier in EQ3 in Winnipeg, we might go straight from there to wherever it needs to go in BC or Alberta. Or other times, depending on what it is, we'll bring it into the store and then we'll take a look at it first and then we'll send it out. So it just depends what the item is and where it's going to go, because different scenarios require different kind of things.
And then you also then would coordinate like a white glove delivery service, so that you not only
we take care of all of it.
You supply it, but you'll supply the people to get it into your client's house, which to me is like
100%.
Sure, we can order it and get it here, but it's like, how do we get it into our client's home, assembled properly and not just like slapped together? Yeah, that's one of the biggest concerns I think designers have is and why they're hesitant to supply furnishings is not ordering and, you know, handling that on the client's behalf. It's like, what happens when it arrives and who's going to move it in there? Who's going to assemble it? Who's going to damage the house? All these things. So it's having a team that you trust, you know, that's professional moving team. Those are hard to come by in some of these smaller areas. So that's another benefit to working with you is that you can assemble your white glove no matter where this furniture is going. You've got those connections.
Yeah, so furniture stores, obviously we're competitors at the same time, but we're also a community as well too. So because of it, we can, like, let's just say if I have a customer that's in Victoria, I can call a store in Victoria and just be like, hey, what's a delivery service company that you guys use? And they'll be honest with me. Just like I've had stores call me too to be like, hey, we have a client that's they're moving to Kelowna and they're taking some stuff and we just want it delivered. So who do you use? And then I'll just tell them, like, this is my guy. So we have, like, it's easier for us to kind of coordinate these things, because if you're just going to go on Google and you're just going to search like a moving company, like if a designer's trying to do that, you don't really know what you're getting yourselves into. But for us, it's like we obviously have a little bit more reassurance because we're talking to other stores, and it's just like if you've been using a guy for 10 years, you obviously trust them. So so it's easier for us to coordinate, and we'll take care of all of it. The beauty of it too is that if anything did go wrong, hopefully nobody spills booster juice on the carpet. But if they did do that, then we would take care of getting a new carpet and then getting it to the client, so the designer doesn't have to worry. We will take care of their client. Yeah,
that's huge. That's huge. So for me, I will gladly give up another 10% of my margin, so that I know that these things are, you know, not that I expect you to handle everything and it's all you, but I know I have someone behind me that will stand behind what they're also supplying and, you know, their business and their ethics and their values. We align that way. So I'd rather give up 10% and only make, you know, a certain amount on my products than trying to do all that work myself. And just, you know, it's just not worth it. It's just so much better to collaborate with someone like you to help our projects like run a lot smoother and a lot more efficiently. And just like, it's a better overall experience for our clients because you'll handle it, I'll handle it together. It just gets handled. So I appreciate that a lot.
We just want to make sure that, like, our main thing when we're dealing with designers is at the end of the day, like, our client is going to be essentially like you would be my client. So the last thing that I'd want is for you to look bad to your client. So we will do everything that we can to make sure that we make you look good to your own client. So that's our number one priority. So we'll do whatever we have to do to make sure that that's the case. So we give obviously designers a certain percentage off as for bringing their clients to here, doing business together. And then within that discount, the designer is free to do it however they want. If they want to pass on the full discount to their client, they can. If they want to do a portion of their discount to the client and then a portion for themselves, which is a commission for themselves, that's fine. If they want to keep it all to themselves, that's their prerogative too. So we just let them, you guys, every designer has their own deal because every client is a little bit different too. So we don't know what your situation is with the client. So that's not our business. So however you want us to structure your deal with clients, if it's different between one and the other, that's perfectly fine with us. So you have the freedom to do it however you want.
That's perfect. Because I know that's, again, one of the reasons why a lot of designers are really scared to get into this, because they think, oh, you know, I have to get my PST number, I have to remit all of that, I have to learn all about that tax law and just the accounting that goes with it. I've been doing this long enough that doesn't scare me, and I'm totally fine with that. And so the other way of doing it, instead of just having Justin take care of everything and invoice the clients pay Justin directly, is like with our business, I am a reseller. I've got my PST certificate. So I purchase the product from Justin with my discount, and then I turn around and sell it to my clients and invoice my clients, and we handle it separately that way. So they pay me and I pay Justin as my supplier. So there's different ways that you're able to handle, designers' business setup, and you'll work with them to figure out what makes the most sense, obviously, for them. Yeah. Honestly, truly, personally have experienced that. And that's why I keep coming back to you, because it is so easy, and you're just so willing to sort of like help out. And if I send you like, hey, can you get this? You're like, well, let me check. And like, no, but I can get this. And it's similar. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, that's good enough. Sure. Let's do that. Yeah. So you're willing to like work with us as a trade, and our industry to sort of just service our clients the best way that we can, which is, it's rare. So when you do come by it, you really appreciate it. And that's why you're on my live chat number 5, because I want everyone else to hear about you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it comes from, I think that truly does come from City Furniture, because like the business model for City Furniture was always small towns. Like we've always focused on like the Revelstokes, the Salmon Arms, like the Merritts, the smaller cities in BC. And when you're in a smaller city, you have to, customer service is by far the most important thing. Like you cannot have bad customer service in a small town. So otherwise that's the death of your business. My
last question for you, Justin, before I let you go is, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in business so far that you want to share with someone else just starting out?
I mean, everybody's got the whole, you got to work hard, which is true. You do got to work hard. But the one thing that I've found specifically with this one is your connections are huge. In business, it's what is important, but you really need to know people. Like you have to have a good network of people that will help your business grow, because without that it's just so much harder. You got to build some relationships. So networking is important, but it's like actually building a relationship with people. You really got to make sure that you go above and beyond to kind of create a relationship that will sustain for not just like one project, like for years kind of thing. So and then as you do, like you meet more people based off of that. Like it's a branch that just continues to just grow. So I think networking in a way that you meet quality people is super important for business.
Well, thank you. This has been really, really great and informative. You're so easy to talk to. Really appreciate
it's great.
Everything that you've done in our business, and to make our business run really well as well. So thanks so much. So DK Modern Furniture, located here in Kelowna, but will ship furnishings out to Alberta and anywhere in BC. I will link your website somewhere, either show notes or online. I don't know what you even call it, but people will know where to find you at the end of this. So thank you so much, Justin. I really hope that you have a really good weekend, and thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
See you later.